The Second Empress found her legs. It took a moment, the cold in her chest had spread, and her body had the delayed quality of something that had received information it was still processing, but she rose, and her face reorganized itself from frightened into something harder and more practiced. "Crown Prince," she said. "You think you can become Crown Prince? You can't. Your lineage alone would." Tan laughed. It was a bright sound, genuinely delighted, and it cut her off more effectively than any argument. He turned back toward her with the expression of someone encountering something that has exceeded expectations. "You are remarkable," he said warmly. "Even now. Truly. If you want the throne, you need me. My connections, my allies, without my support you cannot, no." The warmth did not leave his voice, but something behind. His eyes went very still. "I'll become Crown Prince without you. I'll take everything you spent your life wanting, and I'll take it alone. You don't need to do anything." He paused. "Stay in this palace. Don't leave it." The Second Empress stared at him. You intend to confine me here? I am the Second Empress of this empire." "You cannot simply, I came to tell you," Tan said. "That is all." He turned for the door. "Tan." He kept walking. "Tan." Her voice broke on it, not the sharp, tactical break of a woman deploying emotion, but something older and less controlled. She crossed the room and reached for his arm. "You can't leave me. I'm your mother, you can't just." He stepped through the doorway before her hand could close. She stood at the threshold, breathing hard, watching him stop in the corridor and say something quiet to the bodyguard. The bodyguard moved to the door. "Her Highness is very distressed," Tan said pleasantly, to the attendant waiting in the hall. "She has expressed that she doesn't wish to leave the palace. Please respect her wishes." He looked at the maid with eyes that were smiling and entirely cold. "She is to receive meals at the scheduled times. Nothing outside of that. You understand?" "Yes, Your Highness." The maid's voice was barely audible. The lock turned. "Open this door." From inside, muffled, then louder as she understood. Open it. "Open this door, Tan." The maid stood very still and looked at the floor and heard nothing. Tan and the bodyguard walked away down the corridor. Footsteps even and unhurried, and the voice behind the locked door diminished with distance until it was only an idea of a sound, and then nothing at all. The Emperor's bedroom smelled of medicine and something underneath the medicine that medicine was failing to address. Tan stood at the bedside and looked at his father, at the face that had gone the color of old iron, at the chest that rose and fell with the effortful irregularity of something working very hard at a simple task. He could not move. He could hear. His eyelids twitched when Tan spoke, which was acknowledgement enough. "Father," Tan said. The eyelids moved. "The first prince died falling from his horse. The second was killed by demonic beasts." He kept his voice conversational, the tone of a man delivering a routine summary. "The fourth poisoned you, I've dealt with him. The fifth left the palace. The others are too young to be relevant." He looked at his father's face without expression. "I'll be ascending to Crown Prince. I wanted you to know." The Emperor's breathing changed, harsher, the air dragged in and pushed out with visible effort. "It's a tragic institution, isn't it?" Tan continued. "Born into a high position, surrounded by brothers from different mothers, and the arithmetic always comes out the same, kill or be killed. It was inevitable the moment you decided to have so many children." He paused. "If I become emperor, I'll marry once. One empress. It seems like the Kinder approach." He reached up and touched the scar at the edge of his chin, the habit of it, the small involuntary gesture he had never managed to stop making. The fourth prince's blade had been aimed at his face. He had turned at the last moment. A few centimeters of difference between what had happened and something much worse. He leaned down. "Don't be angry," he said, quiet enough that no one else in the room could have heard it. That I'm the one inheriting this. A son whose lineage is uncertain, ascending your empire. He straightened. You should have been more careful, father. This is the consequence of not being careful. He walked out. Behind him, the emperor's breathing went ragged with effort, the sound of a man struggling violently against his own stillness. The attendants watched the crown prince leave and said nothing. News had learned to read the quality of Tan's silences the way sailors learned to read the sky, not because the information was comforting, but because it was useful. He set the report on the desk and delivered it in the tone of a man choosing his words carefully. The trip went smoothly. I observed the Duke of the West, as requested. Tan looked up. He threw the card away. A pause. Then, unexpectedly, Tan smiled. The small, private smile, the one that meant something had confirmed a hypothesis he'd already been confident about. News studied this. He had expected irritation, or at minimum the cold. Amusement Tan deployed when things went as poorly as predicted. Not this. He threw it away immediately, News continued, cautiously. Without reading it past the first line, from what I could observe. Yes, Tan said. As though this were satisfying. News kept his expression neutral and thought about the fact that his position in this court was the result of a very specific threat from a very specific duke, and that Tan had subsequently leveraged this as though it were a resource he had always planned for, and that his master was quite possibly the most exhausting person alive. Get out, Tan said, returning to the papers. News went. At the door he paused and looked back once. The afternoon light had moved. The room had gone to shadow, and Tan sat in it alone, writing something, and the angle of his shoulders had the specific quality of a person who has not been looked at kindly in a very long time and has stopped expecting to be. News closed the door quietly and said nothing about what he had observed. The bar was open on all sides and loud in the way of somewhere that had decided weather was optional, and the early afternoon crowd had the cheerful density of a city whose economy had, against certain odds, improved considerably in recent months. Tan had been here for some time. The glasses in front of him had accumulated into a small landscape. 20, News said, counting. 22. Tan tossed a peanut up and caught it cleanly. I've been practicing. You've been here since mid-morning. I came to observe public opinion. He gestured at the crowd with expansive generosity. Look at this. A bar this full before the second hour of the afternoon. The economy is doing well. News looked at the crowd. Then at the glasses. You reduced customs duties and opened the borders specifically so you could sit in a bar and drink in the middle of the day? I reduced customs duties and opened the borders because the closed economy was strangling legitimate trade and feeding the black market. The bar is a side benefit. He caught another peanut. When the Second Empress used to give me sweets, I learned to do it like this. Toss and catch. You can't be certain about anything that's handed directly to you. News put down his drink. Please, he said. I am begging you. If someone here recognizes you, no one will recognize me. Tan looked entirely comfortable. Crown Prince. What a title. Every brother I had wanted it so badly. He considered this. I don't understand it at all. You killed them for it. I survived them, Tan said, in a tone that suggested this was a meaningful distinction. There's a difference. They were trying to kill each other, and me, from the beginning. I simply lasted longest. He picked up his glass. The position itself is deeply uninteresting. I have meetings. I review trade documents. People bow at me. Yesterday someone bowed for what I calculated to be 45 continuous seconds. Your Highness, the bow was the most exciting thing that happened. He drained the glass. I have no brothers to pass this to. I've thought about that. It's a problem for later. He slid his coin purse across the table toward News. Go and order more. Get something with actual flavor this time. The last, a hand, very small and very fast, snatched the purse from the air between them. Small feet, hitting the market cobblestones at speed, already 3 stalls away. Tan stared at the empty space where his coin purse had been. Then he looked at News. News looked back at him. That, Tan said, with the first genuine interest he'd shown all afternoon, was impressive. He stood up. Your Highness, but Tan was already moving, weaving through the crowd with the unhurried focus of a man who has identified something worth his attention and intends to follow it to its conclusion. News pressed both hands over his face. Then he got up and followed, because there was nothing else to do, and because this was, he reflected, the story of his professional life.